Good afternoon. We are Free Spirit Fabrics. We are here today to talk to you about our November ship of all these wonderful collections that we have. We are here for Year of the Designer. We have 5 designers that we're talking about that are designers that are already uh, in our Free Spirit collection of designers. And we have 2 new artists that we're going to be talking about. I'm Sharon Thornton, and I'm here with Debbie Stark.
Hello.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys can see us or not, but here we are. So we're going to get started because we have a lot to cover.
So the first collection we're going to talk about today is Counter by Ebon. It's a digital collection, and as Sharon mentioned, it will ship in November. And I wanted to share with you Ebon's inspiration for this. The collection of letterpress prints that began the idea for Counter was made during a 2-week residency at the Hamilton Woodtype and Printing Museum in 2024. Hamilton houses 1.5 million pieces of wood type and is the only museum dedicated to the preservation, study, production, and printing of wood type. At Hamilton, E concentrated on printing some of the larger, billboard-sized wooden letter forms in the collection. Some were more than 3 feet tall. Can you believe that, Sharon?
No, that's
It was such a dream to have the time and opportunity to print with their historic type collection, to make art that celebrates the beauty of this strange, wonderful grouping of shapes we call an alphabet. Counter follows in the footsteps of E's past collections, Glyphs, Roots, and Rabble, which experiment and examine aspects of the written word. So as we delve into the collection, you'll see it's 16 SKUs. It's super dynamic. We've got a great range of small, medium, and large prints. In the upper left-hand corner, we've got Nest, which is this great black and red print, almost like on a paper bag parchment ground. Below that, in the bottom left corner, we've got Ethereal, again, playing in with that sort of parchment paper bag beige with grays and blacks. It's really rich, and I consider this sort of a gender neutral collection. I love that it's, appropriate for men and women, young and old. It doesn't matter. It's really a great collection. In the next column, we've got Infinite, which has that wonderful pop of yellow amongst the gray and the blacks. Across from there, we've got Area, which is just, it looks like sort of hieroglyphics, but it looks like you can sort of make out numbers in it. Again, love the coloration. Moving across the top of the screen, we've got the counter design, which is really the focus of the collection. And this is based on white, yellows, creams, grays, and charcoals. And to the far right, we've got Haven. And I love how she's then introduced these pops of red with the specific SKU to the bottom left of that SKU, Haven. Below that, we've got Expansive, and that sort of feels more like a piece of concrete with just some really light sort of stamping, super cool. And then in the very middle, we have Boundless, which is this great collection of reds and greens and blacks and corals and charcoals. It's just really very eclectic, works together beautifully. And I think my favorite piece in the collection is what she calls Open. And Open is in the bottom second column, and it's sort of that really soft, beautiful ivory ground with those zeros or O's elongated. I think it'd make a really fun dress.
Oh,
So
definitely would.
there you go. Now I'm going to turn it over to Sharon.
All right. So love this collection. Love how graphic it is. This is a great quilt. This is called Counterbalance, and it was designed by Tony Alexander for the Red Boot Quilt Company. Really love what she did in terms of bringing in that turquoise in such a strong, bold way. Picks up a lot of the smaller, hints at turquoise that are already in the collection. And then, that border is just really, really strong, pulls the whole quilt together in terms of the color, with the black, and you've got the gold or greens in it. And then you can see how nice this quilt works, and the collection works well cut up. So this is a great example of how the quilt, the collection will look all cut up into this quilt, fun quilt. And then the next quilt is Bohemian Born, and this is designed by Everyday Stitches. And again, you can see like the turquoise or the blue in the background on this, but you can see the collection displays very nicely in this quilt. You can see bigger pieces of the quilt. This is a curved piece quilt, but like the previous one, it's cut up. This one, you've got the curved piecing, shows the collection nicely again. You should also be thinking about garments, as Debbie mentioned, in your favorite
Mhm.
SKU.
Open.
right? But there are certainly a lot of other SKUs or designs in this collection that would lend themselves beautifully to clothing. So you could think of that. You could also think of home dec. And I know that E is particularly interested in
Yes,
those sneakers that
definitely the
everybody's
sneakers.
making.
And of course, cutting apart and journaling because
Right.
she
Oh, well, of
loves to
course.
make
Yeah.
journals. So
Right. Right.
really just a great, eclectic, really fun collection.
Yes. Very nice.
Mhm.
On to the next.
Okay, we've got Celebrations by Katie Pasquini Masopust. And Celebrations is a line of fabric that weaves together a spectrum of colors, each representing different celebrations from around the world. One section bursts with radiant reds, oranges, and yellows, evoking the energy of a fiery festival, while another blends soft pastels for a serene wedding or springtime celebration. Blues and greens dominate in a section reminiscent of ocean festivals or lively Mardi Gras parades, and golden metallic accents hit at a grandeur, perfect for a New Year's Eve bash or royal event. So in her collection, we love Katie's work. It's very dynamic. This one happens to be super primary, and you could pick apart and pull out some of the red, white, and blue pieces and make something very patriotic. And I know we recently showed her Americana collection, which was all about red, white, and blue. But you could certainly pull in some of these SKUs as well as the pops of yellow to sort of signify a little bit of sparkle. But the collection is super fun. We're going to talk about in the upper left-hand corner is that fiery red, and it's called Fiesta. Below that is Carnival, which really plays into the whole primary color palette. It kind of ranges the color, and it reminds me of a light bright. Now I'm really
Oh,
dating
yeah.
myself, but
Yeah.
totally feels like a light
I
bright.
never thought of that.
So I love that one. And then down in the bottom left-hand corner is Sparklers. And again, to me, that's a perfect piece to use in this collection or to use whenever you're doing something Americana to celebrate next year's 250th anniversary of the signing of Declaration of Independence. As we move across the top, all over, which I would consider one of the masters, is called Shindig. Sounds like a great party, doesn't it? A shindig. And below that in the black and white super crisp design is Soiree, that circular design. As you move up and across the page, we've got Winding, which is on that beautiful soft green ground. And next to that is Festival. And below that, we've got Confetti. So I love the way, Katie always sends in her original paintings, and it's so fun to unpack her package and get these paintings and then play with her layers because she'll often do a layer of white spirals that's on an acetate. So do we want it with the spirals? Do we not want it with the spirals? So it's kind of fun to see how the whole thing comes together. And then in the upper right-hand corner is Poppers, and to me that feels like Twister.
Oh.
Again, I just dated myself, but we've got Light Bright and Twister, and we've got great designs throughout the collection. And in the bottom right-hand corner, last but not least, is Hoopla on that really rich indigo purpley ground. And to the left of that, we've got those great Americana stars on the red. Super fun, really exciting, and I think it's a celebration.
It definitely is.
So we'll go to you, Sharon.
Alrighty. So this quilt is called Retro Revelry, and this also was designed by Tony Alexander from the Red Boot Quilt Company. Love how she put this quilt together too. A celebration of flowers here. It cuts up the collection. It shows it in a much different way, a way that you would never expect for this to be used. And it's just a lot of fun. So this quilt is just a really fun quilt, showing the collection quite nicely together. And then the next piece of inspiration. This one is called Courtyard Checkerboard, and this is designed by Everyday Stitches as well. Again, it's a fun, more modern piece, and I like how Debbie's Light Bright and Twister SKUs are used in this particular quilt. But again, just unexpected, and I thought that this quilt came out very nice for this collection.
It feels very digital, like it'd be great for a boys' room.
Oh
I don't
yeah,
know. There's
yeah, yeah.
something about it that feels sort of techy and
Yeah,
digital.
that's
Kind of
true.
fun.
Yeah, it is fun.
All right, next we've got Festival by Odile Bailloeul. And Odile is from France, and we just adore her work. And I'm going to share with you the inspiration for Festival. The Festival collection invites us to a place of festivity and fun, where a wind of fantasy blows. Fiery hot air balloons, colorful swallows, lanterns, and rosettes encourage us all to be cheerful and lighthearted. For this collection, Odile came up with a series of generous patchworks that will add a welcoming, sparkling atmosphere to our homes. These are patchworks to take to picnics, festivals, or just to get away from it all. And I think she summed it up best in calling it festival. I love the collection. It is so bright. It's so happy. It's so colorful. It's everything really fabric should be. We should be able to escape to this make-believe land where all of our troubles go away. So we've got festival, and in the upper left-hand corner, we've got balloons. So just imagine looking up into the sky and seeing all these beautiful, brightly colored hot air balloons. And below that is magnolias, which almost creates this beautiful border stripe. Moving across the page, across the top, we've got zigzag. And next to that, we've got diamond, again, on a really beautiful, lush green color. And below that, we've got the rosettes that she talked about in the inspiration. Again, very multicolored. It's super happy. It's super beautiful. Again, moving across the page, we've got lanterns, which are those wonderful lanterns, and I can just imagine them floating across the sky. Below that, we've got the small zinnias on that really rich yellow ground. And then we've got a smaller version of the balloons on that beautiful aqua ground. So it very much feels like the balloons are in the sky. Moving up and across the page, we've got flight. So we've got these very whimsical, beautifully colored birds with little florets and bouquets running across the fabric. And below that, we've got the larger scale zinnias. We like the zinnias so much, we had to keep them in 2 scales. They were so beautiful, and we figured they could be used in so many ways. They're really very gorgeous. And then on the far right-hand side, we've got memory, which incorporates the zinnias with the flying birds, with the balloons. So really that is the master of masters. And below that, we've got some coordinates. We've got candy. And again, we've got that little diamond design. And just to the left of that, we've got that beautiful border stripe on the very hot pink coloration.
Really pretty.
So it's your turn. Oh, and I forgot, we've got the quilt back.
A gorgeous quilt back.
This quilt back is to die for. You'll notice that the ground that the zinnias sit on is really pieces of the lanterns. So it creates this incredible sort of patchwork, plaid-like design with these great flowers that almost look like they could be appliqued on. Super beautiful, really gorgeous, and that is digitally printed because we could never capture all those colors in a traditional print.
Yeah.
So I'm going to turn it over to you now, Sharon.
All righty. So the first quilt here is a balloon quilt. This was designed by Odile, and love how she, who better than the designer of the fabric to design a quilt and see its use. And you can see the hot air balloons there in the large squares. She's cut it up. She's used a lot of the different designs from the collection in this. Just a great use of so many of the SKUs. I love the yellow in this quilt because it's not,
really embrace the yellow.
Right. It's not often that you can do a quilt very well in yellow, and this is very nicely done. So we love this quilt. And then the next quilt is the diagonal patch quilt. And what I liked about this quilt was, you can see that half this quilt is done in like the blue-ish yellow aqua tones of the collection.
Kind of
the cool tones. And then the upper part of the quilt is done in the warmer or hotter tones of the collection. And, this again designed by Odile. And just great piece. It's fun, it's whimsical. I think it shows the collection very nicely, and love this collection, love Odile. She does beautiful work all the time.
She certainly does. And you all really need to follow her on Instagram because I love her little mice family.
Oh yeah.
They're precious. Next we've got Primitive Cloth from So Kind of Wonderful and Celebrate with Primitive Cloth fabric collection. This moody assortment of blues, creams, grays, and one stunning red feature fabric is inspired by the timeless symbols of patriotism, perfect for honoring national pride in every stitch. With classic elements of stars, stripes, anchors, flowers, and even a horse and buggy, this collection evokes love for the country. With just the right mix of textures and hues, Primitive Cloth will also mix in beautifully with a variety of fabrics for all your creative endeavors. Primitive Cloth and Compliments by So Kind of Wonderful are the perfect combination for creating quilts, apparel, home decor, and accessories for holidays throughout the year. These fabrics blend nostalgia with a very modern flair. So you can see it's a really tight collection. It's 10 SKUs. As we thought about celebrating the 250th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence, we thought about what designers we work with who have a really great aesthetic to make some beautiful quilts. So we invited So Kind of Wonderful to participate and create this little, what I call sort of a small little capsule collection for the anniversary of our country. And they came up with 10 great SKUs. And it was so funny when I first asked them about doing this. They're like, oh, we don't do red. So they did a great job with adding one piece of red, and you'll see in the inspiration just how beautiful it works. So we've got a very traditionally upper left-hand corner broad stripe. Below that, we've got bright stars. And below that, we have braid, which is that little horse and buggy carriage print that they alluded to in the inspiration. In the next column, we have glare on that beautiful rich red ground. And below that, we have Celebrate, which is just a collection of linear 250 to celebrate the anniversary. In the next column, we've got Tilescape, and below that, we've got Bursting, and Bursting feels like these incredible fireworks on a very deep, rich indigo. And then in the last column, we've got Banner, which are our anchors. We've got Hydrangea, which who doesn't love a hydrangea on that really beautiful powdery blue. And then the very last design in the bottom right-hand corner is called Wave, and you've got sort of that ombre effect of all the blues and greens. So really a beautiful collection, and I think you're going to love the inspiration that Sharon has to share with us today.
Wow. So Kind of Wonderful designed this inspiration.
Yeah,
So
it was
they did
really
a
beautiful.
beautiful job. So the first quilt is your chic country quilt, and this is using their curved piecing and their rulers that you use to create this. This is like a storm at sea, uh, type design with this quilt. I love it. And like Debbie said, you can see the pops of red are perfect with, the blue in this. And then the background in this is also using their complements collection with this. So nice assortment of this collection, the primitive and the complements. The next one is checkers and chains here. Again, look at the red. The red looks very, very nice popping off of this quilt with the blue setting in the background. And then the next quilt. Love this one, double starburst quilt. It looks like a Mariner's Compass. Love this quilt. I think it's fantastic, but I'm a big Mariner's Compass fan. So, background, you've got the complements. They're So Kind of Wonderful complements. And again, the primitive cloth is in all of these compasses. Three great quilts to show.
And I think the quilts are really sophisticated. Like they're not over the top that you have to take them down after the anniversary or
Oh,
only
yeah.
put them up on the 4th of July. Like they're super beautiful.
Right. And then right here are the complements. Debbie, do you want to talk about it?
And we could talk about them. They're a little hard to see because the color palette is so soft. They're supposed to be used as low volume. So it's part of our reorder program, and you should be able to ask for these at any time with your local retailer. Really a beautiful collection of just background prints and pieces that So Kind of Wonderful uses in everything they do. So they're really beautiful. Next, we've got Daybreak by Shell Rrummel. And Shell's favorite time of day is daybreak. When the inky night begins to fade away and early morning light appears, the world transforms. First into mysterious hues of lavenders and dusky blues, and then softly into soft seashell pinks and warm corals. She loves that there is so much hopeful energy ahead of the rising sun. Those beautiful monochromatic early mornings are unique. Your eyes focus mostly on lines and layers, shadows and glimmers of light, all the while seeking patterns of familiarity. The saturated palette of Daybreak is a fresh departure from the more muted coastal colors that often graced her designs. Yet, as always, there remains a consistent watercolor-inspired fluidity to Shell's designs and a desire to honor a moment in time, however brief. In Daybreak, Shell has captured the essence of hope and renewal, which begins each day with the return of light. And this collection to me is so rich, yet so serene, and it just feels like another elevated style for Shell. And it works so beautifully with her past collections to bring in more of the lights. But we've got all of these iconic, beautiful, fluid designs, whether we're talking about Dream State in the bottom left-hand corner, or Sunrise to Sunset in the second column, to that Nature's Walk in the bottom right-hand corner. That Nature's Walk to me looks like this geyser of fresh water and fresh excitement for the day. So I think it's really, really a gorgeous collection. We've got the softer pieces of the jetty in the third column, the top left-hand piece on that white ground. Next to that is meditation. So again, just sort of a softer palette, bringing us back to what we know and love about shell. And to the far right, we've got traverse, which looks very familiar, very soft, very watercolory. And then when we go back to the far left, we've got this great piece called unfolding, second one down in the far left. And it almost looks like paper or fragments.
Mm-hmm.
And I really love that. And of course, above that is Arise, which is a great way to start your day. Love the collection. I think the palette is really, really beautiful, and it allows us to experiment a little more with the talent of Shel Rrummel. So love it. And then, of course, we've got a quilt back and my favorite SKU, which is Nature's Walk. But this one is all in tones of grays and blues and can go across any of Shel's collections or many of our other collections from other designers. It's a really super large scale. It's printed digitally, so we could do endless color and have that smooth transition to really mimic her painterly style.
Does she use, is this played off of kelp? Like from Ethiopia?
No, I
No?
don't think so. No, but it looks like it could be, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. That's
I
what
don't
I was
know. I
wondering.
just keep seeing this geyser of splash coming up.
Right.
Anyway,
All right, so this quilt is called Moon Dance Revival, and this quilt is also a So Kind of Wonderful pattern because they're designers for us. We like to use their patterns whenever we can. And Shell also wanted to see the collection done in this particular pattern as well. She felt as though it fit in nicely with this collection. Love the collection. I love the lights, mediums, darks with it. I love the pops of the coral in it. Very cohesive collection. It works beautifully together. This quilt is a lot of fun. It's very modern, showcases the collection beautifully. And then the next one, this was a great quilt. Ingots. If you wanted to, the intention of this is to show how you could, whole cloth, make a whole cloth quilt if you wanted to, or you could certainly, cut it up. You see the flying geese in there, and you could certainly make this beautiful quilt. This is done by Carrie Nichols of Quilting Renditions, but there's multiple messages in this quilt and the way that you could use the fabric. And again, that fabric on the outside, the border, what did you call that?
fragments.
Fragments. Sorry,
That's what
I
I
already
call
forgot.
it. That's
I already
it's
forgot.
called unfolding, though. It's like
Okay.
unfolding a piece of paper.
Right. So, I mean, it just looks like it's all crackled. I mean, it's just a lot of texture, a lot of depth to this collection. It's very nice. Oh, one more piece. This is a loophole quilt. This is done by Charisma Horton. Wanted to show this collection cut up even smaller than the other pieces that we showed you. So we had a modern piece, we had a whole cloth piece, and then this one's cut up. So you could see all the depth that you can get out of cutting up all of these different fabrics within this collection. And don't forget about home deck with this because we're showing you quilts, but you could definitely be doing a lot of home deck with this. You could even do some garments in this. You could do bags. I mean, this collection lends itself to a lot of different, um, ways that you could create.
Yeah, and I always feel like for Shell, when she does a quilt back, I'm all about, oh, just buy enough yardage to make yourself a duvet cover because
Right,
it's just so beautiful.
right.
And it's so dynamic and it makes such a statement in your bedroom or your guest room or whatever.
Mhm.
It's really beautiful.
It is very peaceful.
Well, next we're going to introduce you to Clare Youngs. Welcome this new FreeSpirit designer. Clare is from the UK and she is absolutely delightful. And it's her love of papercraft that led her to experimenting in collage. Clare uses paint, ink, wax resist, and printing methods to create a range of sample papers that she cuts up and pieces together to make her artworks. Clare's love of color and pattern plays an integral part in all of her works and has now led her to the exciting world of textile design. And I think what really resonated with us when we found Clare was all of the layering and the fabulous little prints used within all of her collaging. And eventually, anyone who follows her on Instagram or Facebook, her posts are amazing. She does everything from cut book paper crafts to all of this collaging. And then she does all this collage work and then she cuts it up into animals. And the animals are precious. So you'll start to see that as we delve more into Clare's work. But her first collection with us is called Flying South. And I think with all the work she had to share with us, we landed on this because I can remember seeing the side of a building posted on her Instagram story that was a painting of her bird. And to me, it was the woodpecker and it was the start of this great collection. So it's called Flying South by Clare Youngs. And Clare's collection is based on her immediate surroundings. She's lucky to live in a house that looks down towards the sea with woodlands behind. She gets to see the ocean birds with the gulls flying over them, but also the woodland birds like woodpeckers that come into the garden. Claire's studio looks out onto the trees, and when she's at her desk, it is lovely to take a moment to enjoy the wild birds that come to visit. So, as I mentioned, in the bottom left-hand corner, to me, this is what started it all. It was the woodpecker. And on the side of this huge, like 3 or 4 story building, was the trunk of the tree and this woodpecker on it. It was just glorious. So, first piece that we really wanted to launch with. As we start in the upper left-hand corner, we've got the collage piece, which is just a great collage of little mini textural designs. Below that, we've got a little mother and chick with this great little textured triangle in the background. Over to the next column at the top, we've got Flock Together, and it's a collection of all of her various birds. Not all of them, but a large handful of her birds. Below that is On the Wing, and next to that, to the right, is Wild Bird. So as you can say, this really is flying south. Up in the next column, we've got triangles, just a great texture, really colorful, brings all the colors together. And below that, we've got an all over called textures, where we've got these blocks of these great textures in black and white. I mean, those would just be great to have on hand to cut up for any kind of usage. Super cute, really great for journaling, small crafts, etc. And below that, we've got that great rich red, and it's called Scratch. It's just a great texture. And to the right of that, we've got these little lovely magpies. And then in the last column on the far right, the top one, we have swallows. So you've got these beautiful birds with great movement. Below that is stripes. So again, it's this collage of texture creating these ongoing stripes. And below that, we've got winter owl on this beautiful rich blue. Just a really cute collection. So I'm going to turn it over to Sharon for her inspiration.
Righty. So this first quilt is called the Trellis Quilt, and this was designed by Heather Black from Quiltachusetts. And we love this quilt. In the background of this quilt, we have So Kind of Wonderful's fabric in the background, right?
I think so.
And then coming down, yeah, it is. It's so kind of wonderful. The compliments are in the background of this quilt. And then coming down the center of this quilt is the use of the collection. So you can see how fun and whimsical the collection is with, all the detail and all of these cut up coming down the center of the quilt. It looks really pretty. And then the next quilt. This is Which Way South, obviously a play off of the name of the collection. And with all the flying geese in it, also picking up on that. So we were trying to, play a little whimsically with
cute.
all of that. The inset triangles, again, So Kind of Wonderful. Their complements fabric is sitting in there. The big blocks in the center of this quilt is the collection of Flying South, and it's just a fun piece, and I think it utilizes the collection very nicely.
And then our biggest announcement is we would like to welcome Giuseppe Robato. Oh gosh, I knew I was going to butcher that. Giuseppe Robato. And he is also known as Giucy Juice. And we are just thrilled to have Giuseppe as part of the FreeSpirit team. To share a little bit about Giuseppe, he grew up in Long Island, New York. He's a first-generation Sicilian American on his father's side and second on his mother's. His family lived with his maternal grandparents. His grandmother, a talented and prolific seamstress, remains a tremendous source of inspiration to Giuseppe to this day. She taught him to sew at an early age, but it wasn't until college, where Giuseppe studied musical theater, that he discovered quilting. Giuseppe joined Instagram shortly thereafter and quickly found himself making long-distance friends in the quilting community via social media. Following college, he bounced around the country working in theater for a few years before moving back to New York to pursue a career in textiles. Within a few months of being in New York, Giuseppe was offered a marketing position for a fabric company and was promoted to multimedia manager less than a year later. In 2018, he turned his focus to fabric design and released his first collection, Quantum. In 2021, he released his 10th collection called Nona, an homage to his grandmother and her home where he learned to sew. New to the FreeSpirit family, Giuseppe continues to design fabric and patterns and teach quilting classes for shops and guilds across the country. He is so passionate about what he does. We love his work. We love his quilts. We love his passion. We love everything about Giuseppe. So his first collection with FreeSpirit is called Enrapture. And let me share a little bit about the inspiration behind Enrapture. For years, the lyrics from Gordon Lightfoot's If You Could Read My Mind have danced in my head. The verse where he sings about a paperback novel from a drugstore has always called to mind a vivid tale of a tragic love story. A decrepit Gothic castle overlooking a wave-battered cliffside, candles barely illuminating threadbare, velvet-covered furniture, dark corners of peeling wallpaper enlaced with years of mangled, drooping cobwebs. In the walls of this crumbling manor, a lovely story unfolds. Enrapture, my first collection for FreeSpirit, sets the stage for this romance. Inspired by bodice ripper paperback novels, you know, the ones
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
Fabian on the cover, the lilting florals and alluring geometrics of this collection tell a story of love won and perhaps love lost. So in this collection, it's 21 SKUs. It's super rich. It's super earthy. It's just beautiful. As we go through the page of designs, in the upper left-hand corner, we've got tiles, and you'll actually see that they are repetitive. So we've got them in 3 colorways that sort of twine their way throughout the collection. It's available in this beautiful teal color. It's the beautiful plum, and again, a really rich golden ochre sort of color. Entwined is the one to the right of that, and that is also available in 3 colors. So we've got it on this really beautiful light teal ground. We've got it in the really fun sort of buttery yellow. And then we also have it, we do have it somewhere else, but I'm missing it at the moment. Maybe we only decided to do 2 entwined. We only decided to do 2 entwined. It's 3 vinings we have though. So that's the next one down in the left column. And you'll see that it's on that really rich emerald green, even deeper than emerald. We have it in this very beautiful plummy burgundy color. And then we have it available again in sort of this orangey russet ochre color. And then, so you can see as you look at this page, there's like 3 distinct palettes. You've got this beautiful teal, you've got this beautiful plum, and then you've got this sort of beautiful gold and ochre color. And what captures it and carries it all together is the master design called Enrapture, which is in the second column on the top of the screen. This beautiful sort of photoreal floral that's dark and romantic and colorful. It's really beautiful. And below that, we've got is all over geometric design. And then to the far right, we've got some of the more basics, some of the more earthy colors, really, really soft. We've got Yearn at the top. We've got Covet is the second down. We've got Striation, which is that great stripe that you see in the 3rd position. And then below that, we've got 2 colorations of particles. We've got black on that sort of creamy white, and then we've got creamy particles on that really rich, deep charcoal black color. Really super beautiful. I can feel Fabian on the cliff holding the love of his life. So here we go. We're going to go with that, and then we're going to move on to his quilt back. And the quilt back is called Vining. And again, just dark and rich and romantic, and it's digitally printed, and it really has sort of these tones of plum on the charcoal. Again, really beautiful. Buy a couple yards, sew it up, and make yourself a duvet. Super beautiful, and then put a beautiful patchwork quilt at the bottom of the bed. Be really lovely. So I'm going to turn it over to Sharon now for the inspiration.
All right. Well, I'd like to take credit for this, but I can't. Giuseppe had a very he was very focused and he knew exactly what he wanted for the inspiration. So these 2 quilts that you see here, the Enrapture quilt, on the left is a dark version and on the right is a lighter version. He actually designed both of these. So this was his vision on how he saw this collection being used, and just he had many, many visions, but this is just one example of many. The only difference between both these quilts is the background. So that design that Debbie was talking about that I already forgot the name of, I think it was Particles.
Oh,
The
yes,
particles
in the background. Yep.
That's the only difference between both of these quilts. So one has the lighter particles and the other one has a darker particles in the back. But you can see, you know, he had a very good sense of how to use this fabric. And then he's got that beautiful print in the center of that quilt in Rapture for the whole collection. And you can see beautiful colors in that, and it picks it out up throughout both pieces of both of these quilts. So if you prefer a lighter version, we have it. If you prefer the darker version, we have it. They both are quite nice, and this quilt is very large, 94 by 94, and it's beautiful. I saw it at
It's
H&H, and
beautiful.
he did a beautiful job on it. So then the next one. Giuseppe also had a vision for a Lone Star quilt. And I know well, I said earlier I like the Mariners Compass.
Mhm.
I do like a lot of points in quilts. I'm not going to lie. As a maker, that's what I love. This Lone Star is very beautifully done. Lucy Faisley um, designed it for us, but certainly with the guidance of Giuseppe, because he had a very specific look that he was looking for in the color placement throughout this quilt. And I love the light background in the back, the skew that's used or the design that's used in the background there with the floral
Covet. Yeah,
covet. Yes, it's, look at how nice it sets
it's beautiful.
that off.
It almost feels like a heart beating in the middle. If
Right.
you look at it long enough, it sort of pulsates. It's really
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah. And I love I forgot what you call them, but I think of them like butterscotch colors, like
Oh
with
yeah, they are
yeah, they
butterscotchy.
look like
Kind of
very
rustic.
butterscotch. And
Uh-huh.
it's just the Lone Star right there is really quite beautiful. I think that's the last piece of inspiration we're showing. Yes, it is. But we have lots more. Giuseppe designed a lot of other pieces of inspiration for that collection, as well as the other pieces, the other collections we just showed you. So that wraps up our version of Year of the Designer for this iteration. All of these that we just showed you are shipping in November of this year. If you are a shop and you would like to order any of these, please reach out to your sales rep or go on to the freespiritfabrics.com and place your order as a wholesaler. And if you are a maker and you watch this today, please reach out to your local quilt shop and tell them that you would absolutely love to have not one of these seven that we showed you, but all
All
of them.
seven.
Right. You want to make something from everything we just showed you because you're so inspired by not just the beautiful designs of all these designers that we have, but also by the inspiration. So we hope that you have enjoyed this presentation today. And if you have any questions, again, please reach out to freespiritfabrics.com or your local shop or your local um, sales rep.
Yeah.
And that's it for today. Thank you
We'll
for joining us.
we'll see you again next month.
Yes, we'll be showing December.